thank you everyone for coming. I really appreciate that. I will actually ask the panelists to introduce themselves.
Hi, Niko Vuori, CEO, co-founder of Rocket Games. We are a social casino developer in San Francisco, founded in 2013, and probably most famous for Viva Slots Vegas, the leading classic three-reel mechanical slots app in the App Store.
Hi guys, I'm Noam. I'm from Matomy. Basically, we're a global company that does both sides of monetization and advertising, focusing moving forward basically on mobile.
So I'm Fernando Pernica, and I'm with AdColony, and we are a mobile video ad network, and we are essentially, our goal is to create value for advertisers, drive revenue for publishers, and also create a great ad experience for our users. And yeah.
I would say you actually invented rewarded video.
That we did.
My name is Yaniv Nizan. I'm the CEO and co-founder of SOOMLA. And what we do is we help companies be data-driven about their ad revenues.
Hi, my name is Guy. I'm a CMO at TabTale. TabTale is a company that makes developer and publisher of games. We started as kids, mainly focused on the kids area. We became one of the top 10 in the world by downloads since 2013, bigger than Disney in terms of downloads. And 2 years ago, we also started developing casual games. So now we have two focus in the team.
Okay, thank you. So I think one of the interesting trends that I've seen recently, and this is why I think this panel is really interesting, is that if until 2 years ago, pretty much everything we heard about in the Casual Connect or other conferences from this type is monetizing with in-app purchases. We start seeing more and more companies start monetizing with display advertising, which is interesting. And actually, maybe Niko, we'll start with you. So, social casino is well known to be a game genre which is very well monetizing. And until a year ago, it would have been pretty much unheard of for companies in that genre monetizing the 40, 50 cents ARPDAU to show ads. Like, so, and obviously you guys came and kind of changed that paradigm. Can you explain how you feel about ads and like why do you do that?
Sure. As everyone knows, all social gaming, including casino, even though it does monetize very well, has only about a 4, maybe max 5% pair rate. And so 95% of your players, your customers, are not actually giving you a cent. So you're offering them a service, and they're not paying you for it. So our view is, and the second piece there is that casino players are extremely promiscuous. We call it promiscuous. They play lots of games, lots of slots games. They pay in some of them, but they will try pretty much anything, especially the payers. They're looking for great content all the time. They're searching for it in the app stores. So our view is that they're going to see an ad somewhere. It's not like if we protect our user base and don't show them ads, they're not going to see that ad somewhere else. So our view is, why not get paid for it? Why not get paid for that 95% of player base that doesn't monetize on IAP, and send them somewhere where they do. As long as we're confident that they're not going to monetize with us, we see no reason why we shouldn't get paid for the service that we provide.
So aren't you afraid that you're going to be promoting your competitors?
We do have some exclusions, so we don't promote, for example, from somewhere like Aviva or other classic SKUs. We don't promote to other directly three-reel mechanical classic games, but we're happy to promote them to video slots because we know that player is not exactly the same. They may have showed up in our game, but they're unlikely to monetize. We also have restrictions in place where you need to reach a certain level, you need to play a certain amount of time, and not pay for us to not show you for us to not show you an ad. So once you convert to a pair, you never see an ad in our game.
Okay. And let me ask you, and then I will actually pass it to someone else. Do you know, for the ads that you show, do you know what from $100 an advertiser is paying? Do you know how much money you're making?
I don't, and I would very much like to find out.
So I think we have some people here that might be able to answer that. So Fernando, so what's happening? Like, first of all, you have like a really big publisher here, which is generating quite a bit of money from display advertising, and unlike in-app purchases that he knows that Apple or Google or Facebook are taking 30% cut, it doesn't really know what's happening. So why are you guys being so secretive? What are you hiding?
There's no secret, actually. The amount of money that the publisher gets from the ad networks or the advertising spend it depends very much on the agreement that they have with the ad network. So it's down to the publisher and to the developer to actually get that deal and to have a conversation with that the ad network and to sort of get the rev share that they want. So there is no secret, there's no black box as far as the ad networks or at least the AdColony is concerned. So,
but there's all those rumors that might be true, might be not, and I want to ask you about that. That the ad networks have like a gouge on their side and say, you know what, I like Niko, I will take only 20% revenue share from him. No, I don't like TabTale, I will take 30% from them. Are you screwing those guys over?
We only do that to make ourselves more competitive, not to, let's say, to screw the publisher. Actually, it's the opposite. We do that to benefit the publisher so we can become more competitive and get better waterfall positions with them and get better, sort of deals with them, get a better relationship. So no one's doing that in bad faith as far as I know, at least in our company. We are very much about transparency, and if the publisher wants to audit, and they're welcome to, we're very happy to. And we have contracts. Publishers, they sign up to our platform.
Yep.
There are contracts that we sign. We are obliged by law to abide with those contracts.
Yep.
And there's no mystery. Whatever
you
you
allow
agreed
them
with.
to audit? You
If
allow
it's
them to see the advertiser's CPIs that they're getting?
We allow them to audit how much they're getting
but you're answering the wrong answer, I think. I will help you, even though it might be screwing me and I don't know. So I will still help him with the answer. Why do I care about the rev share? I mean, he is one of 5 or 6 in a waterfall and he has to beat the others. I don't care what's the rev share that I'm getting. If he doesn't beat the others in the eCPM, he will just get below the others in the waterfall.
Exactly.
So I don't care. I mean, why does it matter?
Yeah, unless they all agree that there's a certain...
If there is a cartel between all the ad networks, then there should be a fight between the publishers and the ad network.
Yeah.
But assuming that they don't have a secret deal with Unity, Vanguard, Uplove, InMobi, and maybe I'm forgetting one of the competitors right now in our waterfall, I don't care about the rev share.
This is a very competitive market. There are so many good video ad networks out there. The top 3, the top 4. Really competitive, really, really good tech, all of us, and it is a competitive market and we are competing for those first impressions, and that's one way that we can make ourselves more competitive. But, we sign contracts with our publishers. We cannot, sort of give them less than we agreed.
So just for me to understand.
Actually, if you look at the legal language of the contract, the rev share that you promise is always from the net revenue. And then there is the definition of net revenue is actually... we take some cut at our own disclosure that we decide on that nobody knows what it is. And then if people don't actually audit you, they never know what that cut is before the rev share.
Absolutely. And it goes back to what Guy said. It's in our interest to make sure that we are very competitive, that we're giving our publishers the best deal possible at any given time. It's very competitive. We have great people in the industry and we need to make sure that we are always in our game. Otherwise,
are you guys being a little bit more transparent?
Basically, yes, but we are in a bit of a different situation. We're an open exchange, so the direct advertisers paying $100 is not exactly the game we're playing. We are basically dependent on the bid that DSPs give, and we base on this. So we're not going all the way to the advertisers. There's loads of types of DSPs that we work with. Some work with direct advertisers, which pay the $100, and then the DSP takes a cut. Then we take our cut, which is definite and transparent and not changeable in most cases.
What is it?
Could it be that the DSP is not working directly with the advertiser, but actually is taking an offer from an affiliate network that takes an offer from another affiliate network?
That's why the chain can be even longer and less. The chance for these guys to win also goes down. And they're looking or usually getting the less quality ads eventually or placements, but there are these guys also in the ecosystem.
So now let's say if there's a game developer sitting out there, now he's very confused and say how can I make sure I maximize the revenues I can generate from my inventory? What will be your advice to them? Because it seems like it's so complex. So like it's someone buying from someone, buying from someone. So it's like so many people making money on the way that eventually those guys that are working so hard to acquire users and create great games, they don't really know how much of the pie they're getting.
But they don't care. You're focusing on something that doesn't matter to a developer, I can tell you. One of the biggest, maybe not the biggest for them, but we are big in this and we do it for a lot of time, and it's not what matters. I mean, what matters is that you put a competition there and they have to compete with others.
Basically, the open market should solve it. So if we were alone in the market, then I would say, okay, he needs to fight with me, but I'm not alone and there's loads of competition. I need to be able to give him good results no matter what. If I don't know, bring double my exchange, I have more DSPs, it could solve, he'll get better prices. If I lower my rev share, also give him, but he doesn't care, he wants to see the money in the end. If I'm not giving him the money, he doesn't.
Can I add also, I mean, every layer that you add, you lose a bit of transparency. So the more sort of exchanges in DSPs and whatnots that you add in the layer, in the sort of the transaction, it becomes a little less transparent. And really, in my opinion, who's missing out is the publisher, because with every sort of layer, there is a cut. Yes. And with the networks, at least, when you go direct with us, you have the rev share that's agreed, beforehand, and that's directly, and there's full transparency on that matter. So that's my opinion on that.
Okay. So Yaniv, you have an interesting business, and you're trying to add some transparency. So how can you add transparency in this, I guess, pretty complex ecosystem?
So our business is to add transparency. We give the publisher a platform where they can see the ad revenue on every specific user. They can see who is the advertiser on that user. They can see what provider got what impression in the waterfall, what was the eCPM on that impression. They can see if there are advertisers that are better for them, advertisers that are taking their users away, all sorts of things like that, and they can make much smarter decisions about their ad monetization in the long term.
So what, for example, working with clients kind of blew your mind when you actually saw what's happening underneath?
So one of the things we have seen that is quite surprising is that when you look at different segments of users, we have seen that some segments outperform other segments by 3x and 4x in terms of ad revenue on those users. So that means that if you look at your user base and you think the average LTV you have is $1 from ads, and you think, oh, this is too low, I cannot do user acquisition, I cannot grow my business. Actually, there are segments where you are doing $3 or $4, and on these segments you can be profitable in user acquisition. That means you can actually grow your business a lot faster. And the same thing happens when you look at different segments of users. Some of them are monetizing better with performance networks. Some of them monetize better with brand advertising. Think about two segments. One is the heavy downloading users, the users that go and install other apps based on ads. And then think about the other segment, the non-downloading users. So these are two very, very different segments that behave very differently and respond to different types of advertising. So by knowing these kind of things, you can actually improve your ad revenue a lot better.
So Guy, most of your games, as you mentioned earlier, they're really designed a little bit more towards kids. And at least in my mind, when I'm thinking about the type of advertisers, I see, typically mobile games those days, they are not really targeted towards kids. So what do you guys do? Do you guys show ads for Game Awards for a 5-year-old, and maybe they play it, or you have different type of ads? Do you do direct deals? How do you manage to monetize with display advertising for an audience which is not a traditional display advertising audience?
Yeah, first, as Yaniv just said, we don't have this level of transparency who exactly sees what, so because we work with ad networks, but there are filters that you put. You put the maximum filters that you can, so you target only the appropriately rated ads. Of course, you use only networks that are willing to give you a rep that they are COPPA compliant and all the rest of the regulations. So this is the way to be legal about it. The way to be nice to the kids about it, that's more difficult. I mean, since Do Sleep, we had a problem with one of the not them, I'm just pointing, but with another rewarded video ad network that just they had this ad of episode, if you know.
Yes.
It's a great app, but it's not for 8-year-old girls, and the ad was something about the sex inside the app. So, and we kept getting complaints even from employees in the companies, and we went to them, and every time they removed it, and somehow it got back to the system. So eventually we just remove them from the waterfall, this network. I mean, the landscape is competitive enough
I know who it is, actually.
I don't want to name the network, but this is what happened, and this is one of the advantages, that it's so competitive. So okay, so now we are not with 6, we are with 5 networks, but it's enough. And
how can you tell? How did you learn about that? Is that from user complaints, or so? Because obviously you are a very global business, and you are based here in Israel, but you have users all over the world. So what if an ad network is starting to show those inappropriate ads for your audience, let's say in Italy? How can you tell? Are you relying on user complaints?
Yeah, I don't have something automatic that tells me that, like Yaniv mentioned earlier, that could have made it much easier to solve these kind of problems faster. Right now we are based on user complaints, we are playing a lot of our games, on reviews, so our support is getting hundreds or maybe thousands of emails every day. So we just this is the main source for the information there, and we just remove the whole ad network when they don't comply with that. So, but it's a continuous fight. But really, it doesn't happen so much. I mean, it does happen, but it's not like something that happens every day. And usually, when it does happen with the more serious ad networks, they take it very seriously. I mean, Google is one of our biggest. Obviously, they are more concerned about this even than we do. So they take it very seriously. Usually, something like this is being handled in minutes. So what I told you earlier was a very specific, specific case. So, but yes, it's a challenge.
Okay. Do you have problem with fraud, like in the click fraud? Is that a big issue for you guys, or you don't really track it?
We don't really track it, and it's an issue. It's more of an issue for the network, I think, than it is for us.
Well, maybe if it's an issue for the network, it's an issue for you as well.
Yeah, I agree. It's an issue is an issue for the industry eventually, but I take responsibility for some of the issues, and they should take for the others.
Yeah, it's definitely the fraud that we talk about. That is the sort of the basement hacker fraud. That's, I think, a small minority of the amount of fraud that happens. A lot of the stuff that happens in the industry is actually just ad network shenanigans. People doing things that they shouldn't be doing, attributing clicks that they shouldn't be attributing, and all of that. I think that's the real problem in the industry, and that's we need to change that. And I think it's down to the advertiser really to find out, to really make sure that they choose their partners right, they get the right attribution partners, they only using with those they can trust. So, spend your money, but spend your money wisely. That's my advice.
So it's a complex ecosystem, right? You have the advertisers, you have the ad networks, like I said, exchanges, publishers, attribution partners, and today there's quite a bit of fraud in the system. So, Noam, in your mind, who's responsible to fix it, and how can we, as an industry, and there was some history, that for your company there's historically some issues around with that.
So basically, there's again roughly two types. One is the media fraud. I think in recent years, a lot of anti-fraud companies came up.
Yep.
That manages to do some good work, not all the way in.
So can you explain what is media fraud? I'm sure if everybody.
Yeah. So basically, bots that simulate traffic, clicks, even installs in some cases, and then the people who generate the fraud earn money from it. So there's some companies we try to work with every product with more than one company to get like a better coverage. But this is a procedure that we started, I think, maybe 18 months ago.
Okay.
So we take it to the very extent to work with industry standards. I think also IAP put some measures. We have internal tools. They're never enough. I think nothing is enough ever, and there's always a battle between a fraudulent activity, which seems to be always a step forward and catching up the industry. This is on the media side. On the other side, like a lot of people mentioned, I think the gap is even bigger than on the media side. And there it's a bit slow. There's some companies, 2 or 3 big ones, are trying to tackle this. We work with them. It's not perfect. It's far from perfect. The whole attribution system is also, let's say, the big ones has a lot of advantage in this, in the way they're managing the ecosystem as well. Google, Facebook, they can do a lot of stuff that they want to do. And the people who are not Google and Facebook has to yield down, basically, in most cases, their rules. So effectively, they're leading the ecosystem to a certain path. What's outside this ecosystem of Google and Facebook and the attribution business is more or less some ad networks takes attribution to activity that didn't really perform, and media buyers also. We're doing the best, not developing our own technology, but trying to comply with as many partners as we can. This is, I think, this side of the battle is much harder to actually figure out and tackle properly than the media side. That's for my.
So Niko, you're also a big advertiser, right? So you're on both sides, basically spending lots of money on buying traffic and also monetizing the traffic with ads. Is that a big issue for you as an advertiser?
Yeah, I was actually just going to jump in. The point you made is exactly right. I mean, I think on the buy side, attribution is a huge problem. There's all kinds of shenanigans going on. We don't exactly know what the networks are doing when we're buying there. There is click fraud, but it's a lesser problem than I think the attribution. I mean, let's say I go out and buy from Facebook. Facebook aggressively attributes it to themselves. At the same time, I'm buying off 10 other networks. It could have been an ad that they saw somewhere else. So I think that's a bigger problem, in my opinion. I would love to hear from the industry guys as to how they feel the attribution problem is going to be fixed, especially with re-engagement. That's a really interesting one too, where you're buying to re-engage your existing payers. That gets attributed to, let's say, somebody like a Remerge or an App 11, or even a Facebook. But really, should it be attributed to the original source, or should it be some split between the two? It's a really hard problem to solve, and understanding what your LTV curve looks like by channel is one of the biggest problems that we face as a buyer.
So Niko, just to make sure that it's very clear, so your issue is basically you pay a few different networks for the same install or for the same re-engagement?
Essentially, yes, in a nutshell. It's not so much that we do that, it's just that we don't know exactly where to attribute the cost. So we're happy to buy a quality user, and we're happy to attribute it to whichever network we're buying from. But we don't necessarily know whether it's being attributed in the right place, especially when you throw in 10 networks at the same time, and especially when you throw in re-engagement and reactivation spend.
So from your perspective, how can you solve it? So let's say Niko is coming to you and say, all these users I paid you money for, I think got them from someone else. So how can you solve that? How can we solve this ecosystem? Obviously, there's lots of moving parts.
I think it's really down to the advertiser to really choose those partners that they trust. It's got to be about trust, because if you build a relationship with someone and they are taking the money that's not theirs, then that says pretty much about what kind of business they're running. So it's very much about I know that you said it to have 10 partners that you're working with, and that's 99% of the industry, right? It's very common. But it really, really is get to know your network, get to know, how they work, where they're buying, what sites specifically they're buying from. And once you build that relationship, everything goes pretty much smoothly. At AdColony, whenever we sort of spot, fraudulent behavior, we jump right on it, because we know that there's certain patterns, certain behaviors that comes from hackers or from sort of media fraud, right? And we jump right on it. And it's all about really building the right partnership with the people, with networks.
I'm not sure it's just about trust. I don't know if that's what... part of the problems is in the model. Like, you pay for view-through and not just click-through, then obviously there could be problems with attribution. Users can see many ads, but Facebook, I don't remember, maybe AdColony and others, they just insist that these are the models to work with. So inherently, there are problems with the model. So I'm not sure the networks want to solve this problem. You're asking him will they solve the problem, but I'm not sure they are seeing it as a problem.
Because you still get paid.
Because eventually the publishers pay for more installs. That's the bottom line.
But surely, like, we do still get paid, but it might be the case that we don't get paid for the installs that we actually delivered. So we're also on the losing game here if we don't get the install attributed to us. So it's not that we are making extra money on the back of installs that were attributed to us. That doesn't happen, because we want the installs that we delivered to be attributed to us, and installs that Vanguard or AppLovin or Facebook or Google delivered to them, because that's how it is. That's how it should be, really.
You may be accurate that you may not be. Probably not paying twice for the same user. I don't think we're talking about that specifically as an issue. I think the issue we're talking about is which network is getting credit for it. You're claiming that it's the last few. I'm not so sure. I'm pretty confident, especially when you throw in re-engagement ads. You are paying twice for the same person, and so where does that get attributed? It gets messy. So I don't know the entirety of the technicalities of this thing, and maybe somebody smarter and wiser here technically can speak to that. But certainly, we feel it is very unclear as to where the attribution should go for installs and especially re-engagements.
There is also a lot of organic traffic that gets attributed to view through just because, you know, people like see so many videos these days as part of the game experience, the rewards that they're getting.
If you sit on the sofa and you're watching a soap opera or something, and then you watch a Coca-Cola ad, and then you're not going to go right there and then to buy Coca-Cola. You're going to go, I don't know, go for a walk or go to work, and on the way there you might just buy Coca-Cola, but then maybe the ad sort of incentivizes you to go and buy the Coca-Cola. So it's still the advertising, it still counts. Don't you agree?
Yeah, but not on the install. So you don't get $1 of every Coke that's being sold, right?
No, absolutely. But the nature of advertising is that it's sort of it's leading people. It's trying to incentivize a behavior in people's, you know, so they can install or buy or do certain things. So that's the basic premise of advertising.
So are we on the monetization side? Are we also getting paid per impression annually? Yeah. I mean, no, the calculation.
So the
should be like a branded advertisement.
Excuse me, sorry, can I just sort of add a point to that? You know, the view-through argument has been going on for ages, right? But it's more top-down, you know, it's about data, right? Whenever you're running your campaigns across all of the multiple ad networks and you're then, you know, optimizing towards post-install, retention, in-app purchase, data is key. Right? And so what we do is try and collect as much data as we can, so we understand you as much as we can to make your campaigns as effective as possible. And if you have view-through enabled, right, it enables us to collect the effect of view-through with click, so it makes our performance that much more powerful for your campaigns. So it's more top line rather than where should that install go? Should it be organic? Should it not be? It's about data.
It's part of the reason in a way this panel is called like it's the black box, because it's unfortunately quite complex and not very transparent. So Noam, you know, we talked a little bit about you know, effectively, you know, Coca-Cola and brand advertisers. I think we started to see more and more brand advertisers coming into mobile and mobile apps. How is it changing the ecosystem in your mind?
I think the rise of mobile, well, it's kind of a big question, because I think still the big agencies, the big brand agencies are still in the transition phase. They're not already fully into mobile. I think maybe they have big significant amounts of money goes to mobile, but I don't think the focus is fully there. The language is still not fully into mobile apps. I don't see it exactly like this. It's a transition that takes more time than I thought it will take. The talks of the big, I think, agencies in the US, basically, mainly, are still on a specific level, which is not the mobile app environment level.
Are they going to mobile web?
They are going to mobile web. It's I think easier to comprehend. It's closer to the world that they're familiar with. The emergence of huge mobile app agencies didn't happen yet. I don't see any big agency that does mobile app that talks the talk and it gets like a huge chunk of the money goes of the advertising.
I think we heard Noam from Twitter over there. I think at least Twitter, they said that they see more and more in their exchanges, more and more brands coming over there. Are the brands just going to the big guys? Are they gonna make you guys redundant? Are you gonna go only to Google, Facebook, Twitter, and you guys are gonna be the other small ones are gonna disappear?
We are DSPs. We're connecting to DSPs. Mm-hmm. We're not really in direct relationship with. I think it's kind of similar to what MoPub we're just doing in the MoPub section. to talk to this. So for them, we have to have a media offering which appeals to a brand agency that executes through a programmatic environment, which is a DSP. So if our offering is enough, which is, I think, not only media, but data is everything, so we incorporate data in our media and a DMP and stuff like this. Media is a commodity in the end of the day, and if you have an offering which is suppressing it, add something additional layer to the media, then the agencies are willing to connect to you and are willing to buy your traffic, whether it's MoPub or any other exchange or SSP. I don't think.
Fernando, do you see brand advertisers coming to you guys, or they just go to the big ones?
Yeah, definitely. We are definitely one of the biggest mobile video ad networks with brand content there. And the way we see it, the IAP market's a $20 billion market, right? The TV advertising market is a $200 billion market. Take 5% of this TV advertising budget and put into the sort of the mobile the mobile market. You just add another $10 billion, right? So you just added an extra whole chunk to this market. And we are seeing a lot more of branded content coming into mobile, and much faster than I think you're observing. And that's great news for publishers. It's great news for advertisers, because people are spending more time on their mobile, and agencies are waking up to that.
I would, as a buyer, we've certainly noticed it's gotten a lot more expensive because you are competing against brands as well. It's absolutely clear on Facebook, clear as day. Over the last year and a half, it's gotten way more competitive, and a big part of that is brands. They are embracing mobile. I think on the network side, probably less so, but sounds like that's happening now as well.
And as a publisher, Guy, Niko, do you start seeing brand advertisers advertising your games now?
Yes, we do. Even with AdColony, yeah. And I think it's very important what Fernando said. It's at the end of the day, it's more money to the industry, right? Before the brands come in, all the money eventually is the in-app purchase that users are paying. It just rolls to advertisement. But this is the money coming in, is the users that are willing to pay for in-app purchase. And definitely seeing brands coming in should be one way or another good for everyone in this industry. So
Yaniv, how can a game developer can leverage if brands now getting into that ecosystem? Is that something that the people here can actually leverage to make their business more profitable?
Yeah, I think with any change that comes on you, you can choose if you're treating this as an enemy or opportunity. I think smarter publishers are realizing the opportunity side of it and saying, yeah, I know I'm going to get more competition on the buy side, but on the other hand, I'm having a lot more demand for my inventory. So then I can monetize better with advertising on top of the in-app purchase I'm already making. And then I can increase my ARPDAUs, I can increase my overall LTV with Ad LTV, and then I can be even more competitive on the buy side and keep buying more users and grow my business.
So Niko, in order to, you mentioned before that you're working with quite a few partners. So I think typically the way people manage that is with the mediation solution. It seems like all the mediation companies have been acquired by ad networks. So is there anyone that in your mind is really unbiased? Is there if someone here wants to work with someone and say those guys are owned by by Twitter, and those guys are owned by whatever adnet, by Iron Source and all. So are they all? It seems like they're all quite incentivized to push their own solutions.
I mean, I can't speak to if there's anybody neutral out there. Feels a little bit too much like an endorsement, but I mean, we use Google's AdMob. Certainly their inventory is in the mix, but it feels like a good solution to us. But to be fair, we haven't compared it to anything else. So we did evaluate solutions when we put in the mediation layer, but can't speak to. I don't know if Guy, you want to talk about what you guys do?
We also use mainly AdMob mediation, and I mean, not in the rewarded videos, but on the interstitials and banners, we use the AdMob mediation, and it's working well for us. I don't think there is anything biased there. Let's put it this way. Of course, it's a way for them to, to be there and control what's happening. Yeah, we are not naive. We know that, but it's working well, and I don't think anyone there is trying to cheat us.
I think there are three actually components that mediation owned by ad network thing that is happening. One is, as you all mentioned, the bias, and obviously if I'm using Supersonic and there is an incentive for them to push iron source traffic, and same with all the others, Fiverr or Twitter or AdMob. The second part of that is because the mediation belongs to an ad network, there is a disincentive for the ad networks that don't have a mediation to share data with that mediation, which means the mediation remains a lot of times in the dark about who is the best performing because they don't have full access to the data that the ad network might have. And so actually an unbiased mediation would have been able to leverage more data coming from the ad networks. And the third problem is that because the mediation actually belongs to an ad network, they don't want to share information back with the other ad networks. So then it keeps the ad networks in the dark, and they cannot be more aggressive in their bids, and they cannot have the full data and full access to the data that allows them to monetize even better your users.
Yeah, I think you're right, but from my experience from the past, even before those ad networks before the mediation was belonging to an ad network, still other ad networks didn't want to share the data. They just don't want to share with other companies, and there is no cooperation there, so it's a thing that's, I mean, I would be happy if it would have worked, but I don't see this happening.
Yeah, we're talking about different things. So even before whatever HazeUp was bought by Fiverr, their model was still to monetize by selling media. They would place the remnant media on exchanges, and then they would try to monetize on that. So they would still be, even if they would not call themselves an ad network, they would still be earning from the media. A real unbiased solutions would have to be getting paid from the publisher side. So if you would have paid someone to be your mediation and they would know that you're the one paying, then they would do the job that is best for you as a publisher, and then they would be able to do a lot more for you.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but even us, we develop for ourselves. We wanted the information just to pull from the network for ourselves. We are not biased, right? And they don't want to. I mean, some of them are more transparent. Some of them, it's a real struggle to get the data into our BI system. So even for us, it's difficult to get the information.
That's why our business.
But for us, the real black box is mediation. We don't know what happens in there. For us at the ad network, and in reality, the data belongs to the publisher. The data is the publishers. Their users. What happens in the game is theirs. So what we do, we're not retaining any information from the mediation. In reality, all API is as transparent as it can be. We just need as much information as technology can handle. But in reality, it's down to the publisher and down to the mediation platform to work on being more transparent and also manipulating the data in certain manners that you can actually extract value in that LTV and so on.
Yeah. So which information you would have liked to get from the publisher or the mediation platform that you don't have today, that will allow you to make your business better and basically offer more value?
So one of the biggest pain points from our side is really the not knowing where we stand in terms of our competition. So whether we're getting the first impression, second impression, third impression, what share of the market are we getting, or what share of the inventory are we getting? So this is the sort of information that would allow us to be more competitive, or at least incentivize us to be more competitive. And we don't have this information. We rely on our partners to, on the relationship with our partners to really sort of build that a sort of knowledge base. So that's really what would be really, really useful.
Also, I think if you knew, so let's say you're a second and the first one was whatever, Van Gogh, and they served a certain ad, it would have helped if you knew what that ad was. And then you might still decide to serve the same one or not, but you would have had more information about that decision.
So I want to talk a little bit about the rewarded video, which is like really the flavor of the month now. So Fernando, you were of the year. So you guys were really, I guess, pioneers in that space. So why do you think it became so popular recently?
I think users just love rewarded video, and now it really opened up. And I think mobile games have been leading the charge here in terms of making this a very popular format. The fact that now you can have really high quality videos, there's no time lag, really enhances the user experience. And some publishers are really using mobile video for more than just creating revenue. And they are using for retention, they're using to increase engagement. So it's not just about revenue. A lot of publishers these days use rewarded video to actually achieve other goals within the game. So I think that's this sort of the secret sauce for video.
But So I do want to talk about actually revenues from rewarded video. Can you make lots of money from rewarded video? Is that significant for you guys?
Yeah, for us it became really significant.
Are there like rewarded video whales? Do you have users like we keep talking about whales? Users like that in-app purchase now they spend hundreds of thousands of dollars. Do you have those rewarded videos? Can you generate those?
Yeah, first I will answer the answer that Yaniv wants to hear. I don't know. But, no, honestly, I don't know. I mean, you cannot really track exactly what happens with the eCPM down the waterfall, etc., etc. You don't really know. There are users that watch a lot of rewarded videos. At this level, I do know. It's not whales like whales in the in-app purchase. Of course, it doesn't get to these numbers, at least not that we've seen, and not just in the kids apps. We also have in the casual apps. It doesn't. I don't think it can get to whales in the way we talk about whales in the in-app purchase, but it can get to significant revenues.
But you can't tell because you actually give them a reward, right? So it's easy for you to track. So unlike
it's easy for me to track how many videos they watched, but I don't know what happens with the eCPM. That's the problem.
So on the rewarded video side, there are two things. One is when a user watches the video, that's normally when he gets the reward. But the actual revenue is being generated on the install. And actually today there is a problem tracking the revenue to the user level. We're the only provider that actually track the revenue to the user level. What we have seen, I believe the most we have seen in terms of the ad revenue on a single user is $124. And we have only been in the market for 3 months. So it could be that the same user is keeping watching more and more. So I would say $124 sounds like a whale to me. Yeah,
that's pretty good. But also, this is an industry of scale, right? Advertising, you need a lot of users, and that's what TabTale, 1 million downloads. You can sort of make the math there, and you really need a lot of scale to make really good money with video.
Can I ask a question regarding just your opinion? With the entry of MoPub to rewarded videos and changing the system from a pure ad network to a more programmatic and opening, now the DSPs can buy rewarded video industry, how will it affect the ad network's business next year maybe?
Well, I don't really see that much change for us. I think we're in a really good position insofar as we are an ad network. We also have experiments of our own in many other areas that we're exploring, and I don't really see that changing for us. We have solid relationships with our publishers, with advertisers. So for the next year and a half, I think smooth sailing.
So guys, so we're starting to get towards the end of our time. So I asked everyone on the panel actually to prepare a question for someone else on the panel. If you read my email, if you didn't, you'll have to improvise.
Let me ask you a question. From a publisher's perspective, do you think what is the role of programmatic? Like, what does that word sort of instill in you? Fear, excitement, or nothing at all?
It doesn't get me any, honestly. No, it's a bit like the discussion earlier on the monetization side. Like, eventually it's about the competition and the numbers that you can get, and you don't really care if it's programmatic or you hired some cheap workforce to work really hard to make it, or you have a great account manager that sends the right traffic to you. I mean, just another word at the end of the day. Yeah.
So for you, whoever pays more is getting the impressions. If there's fraud, there's no fraud, programmatic or not. If they pay, they pay.
Yeah, I mean, these are things that's more interesting for the guys here from the networks and stuff. For us, but on both sides, I'm talking on the buy side and on the sell side. It's about the numbers, and we don't really care so much how it happens between all the long value chain that you discovered earlier. I'm getting dizzy when I'm hearing these letters, and I prefer not to know.
I think as long as advertisers wants to buy on CPI, then they cannot be programmatic about that because it all happens after the fact. Programmatic, you need to be before the fact. So you cannot be programmatic as long as the market operates on CPI. And today, at least 50%, I think more like 70% of the market is CPI based.
So, Guy, do you have a question for anyone else on the panel?
I have a question. This is more for the industry guys. Rewarded video was the flavor of the year this year. What's next year? What's going to happen next year? What are the trends that you're seeing that are going to be something that we should be jumping on now?
Video. Yeah.
But that was a trend. That was flavor 2 years ago.
It's boring, but it might be true.
It's true. It's true. And what about video? We have new formats that now we have vertical video, not just us. It's in the industry. There's also playables. It's something that's happening. That some people are bringing out. It's getting hot, getting there. We'll still find out what it works or not. But at least for the next year or two, let's say two, video. Yeah.
I think it's not going to be about ad formats. It's going to be about data. It's going to be about publishers
I agree.
leveraging their data a lot more, both to do internal optimizations and both to offer the data to the publishers so they can be buy the right users from them.
Yeah, I agree. Does anyone here believe in playable ads?
No.
I like them as a user.
No, because I remember the previous trend of native ads, and I don't see where is it.
So Yaniv, do you have any question for anyone in the panel?
I would say if you would have known that different segments responded very differently to different types of advertising. So, for example, what we've seen with some customers is on organic traffic, AdMob was monetizing better, and then on paid traffic, Facebook was monetizing better. So if you had that insight, how would you be able to leverage that today with the current tools?
I mean, as of right now, we have a very blunt insight into our ad revenue per install, and that's literally the calculation we do. There's how many installs we got on a certain day, it's how much ad revenue we made, divide that, that's your revenue per install. If we found out that different segments behave very differently, for example, we buy from AdColony, and that user, for whatever reason, on average, is 3 times more valuable from an ad perspective, that would allow me to adjust my bids upwards. So I would certainly shift more my buying to AdColony because my LTVs are going to be better. The other nice thing about ad revenue is that it's guaranteed. I mean, you've already been paid for it, whereas with IAP, it's usually an LTV calculation. The curve is unknown. Different months might behave differently. So I get a lot more certainty. That's the one thing. And secondly, I can make much more data-driven decisions on my buying based off that information.
So most of the actions are on the buying side, but on the monetization side, do you have the ability to take actions in terms of the monetization of different segments? Like you change the waterfall for different segments?
I mean, if it's in the mediation layer and we can feed that data in there on our end, then certainly. I mean, it would hopefully do it automatically, so I wouldn't have to manually do anything. But if we're generating more ad revenue from certain sources, then the mediation layer would adjust it accordingly.
Okay. At this point, I would like to open the panel for questions from the audience.
Of course, we love this this game that we live in. For Guy, for you, what do you find is the biggest challenge in terms of your role in the market at the moment?
There are a lot of challenges right now. I mean, the market became much, much tougher. Everyone knows that. It's not the same, easy market that it used to be. Luckily for us, we established ourselves early when the market was easier, so we built the audience, and it gives some advantage. For us today, the biggest challenge, at least that we are trying to face today, is building our own IP. I mean, we do also license some IPs, but now we are trying to take one of our IPs and get it out, kind of what Rovio does, but we are not as known as Rovio, of course, as Angry Birds, but we have one of our IPs called Cheating Tom, and we are starting to explore other ways to leverage it. We prepare a few episodes, TV episodes with this, and we think building the IP is important, and it's more of an opportunity, but it's a tough opportunity,
Somehow Cheating Tom doesn't feel like your IP.
No, it is, and actually the networks love it. No, I understand the name, and then we had the Emma,
cat, right?
we had an Emma. It was our first one that we wanted to go with Emma. We had the baby Emma, and really we thought we are the first one, and then apparently there is a baby Emma. It's a trademark in the US for a doll called Baby Emma. So it's wherever you go, and then suddenly there was a trademark on the word candy. So and everyone in the industry went wild about this because we can't make games with the name candy. So you have to be so creative. All the reasonable names are taken, and every time that you will do something, someone will say that it's very close to what he does, but the response is good from the audience and from the TV.
So please join me in thanking our panelists.